views and opinions expressed on the Big Llama Show are those of the host and guest. They do not reflect that of our sponsors, advertisers, or employers. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Yeah, it's in the she ruckus. That beat, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Wagon to the million, Louis V about that. Stacking paper limitless, what you know about that? I'm getting paper, seats in the cloud, hands up in the air. Wagon to the million, Louis V about that. Stacking paper limitless, what you know about that?
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Big Llama Show. I'm the Big Llama. It is the Sunday night live stream. I am excited because we are back after a 1 week hiatus because I was under the weather. I was not feeling my best, so I apologize. The most consistent show was not available for one weekend, and we apologize to all of our fans who were expecting the show. But we come back stronger than ever. We're going to talk a lot tonight about, we're going to talk about Black Panther. We're going to do a big Black Panther review. Spoiler warning, we're going to talk about spoilers. There was a UFC fight card last night that we're going to talk about that as well. We got some things to talk about. But guys, I can't do this show alone. Let me bring on my co-host, Blackout AD, and our producer, Big Poppy Angie. Welcome to the show, boys.
What's going on, man?
What's up, man? What's up? So welcome back. Sorry again for last weekend. I've just had this nasty cold for like the last 2 weeks now, and it came to a head last week, and I think it's slowly fizzing out now, but man, it sucked. But in between that illness, we were able to record what I think is probably some of our best material, which was the Grease Be Kind Rewind podcast, which I thought was just an amazing time. And guys, if you haven't seen it or watched it, you're missing out. I mean, go to the Big Llama Show and watch that Be Kind Rewind podcast. We had Jay Birdie, we had Roman 2 Raw, we had Hercules, Blackout. All of us were there talking about Grease, man. And it was just a fun and exciting, more fun than anything, man. It was I've listened to it a couple times now. So
yeah,
I mean,
I haven't listened to it yet, but I feel like it was like chaotic fun because we were all over the place that day. I was like, man, we haven't. It was a different energy. Honestly, most of our like podcast segments have been more tamed, and that one we kind of all just went. We all went rogue. So yeah, I thought it was a good episode. I felt good after that one.
Yeah, what's funny is, like I said, I think we had talked about like. I knew what I expected and I knew what I was going to get, but I just didn't. I couldn't see what it was going to be. But it was hysterical, man. It was just a fun time. I'm telling you that you get a whole new perspective on the movie Grease. So if you haven't seen that podcast or listened to it, do yourself a favor, go do that. Listen, Jay Birdie just breaks it down, plain and simple from the beginning of that podcast, which is how he describes Grease, which I've never heard it described that way. Teenage pregnancy, underage drinking. He goes, you got it all. So that kind of gives you an idea of what you were going to get yourself into with that podcast.
Yeah,
but
I told
again,
my mom not to listen to it.
Oh, and you know what's funny, man, is, in listening to it back, it's not as bad as I thought it was, but yeah, I thought for sure if your mom listened to it, she'd be a little bit.
She was like, they're not talking about anything about the movie. they didn't watch this movie at all.
But did she listen to it?
No, I told her not to. She's Jehovah's Witness, dude. Can't put that on her, dude. She knows I'm a piece of shit. We don't need her to be reassured with a camera. These are the people you hang out with.
Oh my god. So yeah, when you said that on the, I thought about it too. It hit me. I was like, oh my God, yes. What if she listens to this? What if anybody that I know listens to this nonsense? So no, it was a lot of fun. All right, so we're gonna definitely talk Black Panther tonight and UFC as we talked about. And again, we're gonna warn everybody spoilers, so on and so forth. I do have a Llama rant, so to speak, but it's not a big deal. It's more my movie. Well, so a couple of announcements, a couple of things I got to shout out. So first and foremost, happy anniversary to my in-laws. It's their 50th wedding anniversary was on Friday. That's why I was out of town. Their 50th, so 50 years together, man. That's just crazy. That's just insane. They took us out to a nice weekend at Disney. So they treated the whole family, both my side of the family and my sister-in-law and her family. So happy 50th to Chris and Frank. I know they don't really watch this, but if they do, it's a shout out to them. And it's also Mama Llama and I's our 21st anniversary. So that was also Friday. So we had a great weekend. So happy anniversary to Mama Llama. Love you. Can't believe she's put up with me for 21 years. I had a good time. We went to Disney. We hung out with the in-laws, hung out with the family. But we went to go see Black Panther with the family. So I'll start my rant by saying a couple of things. One, I will never ever buy that many tickets again. I bought so many tickets because we're going to take the whole family. I said I'm going to treat everybody, but we had to get like the second row seats. So we had like taco neck, and we were just like this the whole time, looking up. So that kind of dampens the experience. But then again, they were smaller kids, and they decided they didn't want to go. And then my sister-in-law, because of her kids, didn't want to go. So now I'm down 2 tickets that I bought. But we take my brother-in-law with us. And when I tell you he's that guy in the theater who just says inappropriate things and talks through the movie, that's him. And he sat fucking right next to me the entire movie. If you guys know me, like, it took everything in me not to clock this guy. You just saw the movie, right? There's a whole emotional tribute that's really kind of silent. And because it was silent, he can't let the room be silent. So he screams out, Wakanda Forever! And like in the middle of like the solemn, quiet opening. And I was like, oh God, not this guy.
Read the room, my boy. That's what I would have said immediately. As soon as he said that, read the room. Like, come on, bro.
Well, there were people sniffling and crying behind us. I was tearing up a little bit. I was, and I'm sitting there and it's nice and quiet. And I'm just staring at the movie and I hear this fucker go, Wakanda Forever! And I go, what? Like, is that's him? And he's sitting right next to me. I'm going, oh, Jesus Christ. But he kept asking and talking throughout the movie, which to me was like, stop. And I was being polite. I'd answer the question. But then my wife was like, shut up. Like you can hear it. Like he clearly does not have volume control. So it didn't ruin the movie for me, but it was kind of annoying. But I love him anyway. I mean, he knows that. We talked about it afterwards. But my real rant is with Regal Cinemas, man. I fucking paid top dollar for this RPX theater experience. All it was nice seats. The screen was shitty, the sound was shitty, and everything else was shitty. And I was just like, damn, I spent $20 a ticket to sit in a fucking regular movie theater that just had nicer seats. But that's all I have for that on that, man. I'm just like, I wrote Regal, and they had me do their survey.
You didn't write a letter, dude.
No. They sent me a thing to say, hey, yeah, I'm that guy. I had what was it?
This is good, Kevin, dude.
A bitch fit. Right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I am writing a strongly worded letter. So, oh man. No, man. So it sucked. It sucked that happened, but the movie was still a pretty good movie, and I do want to talk about that for sure. now you just went to see it, right? You just got out of the
Yeah,
theater literally
literally
about an hour ago.
an hour ago. I saw it
Oh
just
my
in
God.
time. Are we getting into it? Is this?
Yeah, well, you know
was
what?
that the transition?
Give me your immediate thoughts out of the theater, like about the movie. Just give me like a quick blurb. What's your thoughts on it?
Um, hmm, emotional, Like everybody on the show knows how I I watch my movies. I tend to do the spoilers beforehand, so I knew what was coming, like always. But man, Ryan Coogler, you gotta tip your cap to Ryan Coogler, man. I think he might be one of the best doing it right now, like hands down. Like if not one, he's top three. You know what I mean? Like the way the visuals, the way it looked, the emotions throughout the movie, like it really did take you on like a roller coaster. Still had like some funny moments, but I like that there wasn't that many of those MCU like jokey moments because the movie didn't need that. Like the movie was like, even with the I mean, once we get into it, but like even with the villain, like you feel for that for them. Um, you feel for Namor and like you kind of understand his arc and like why he's doing what he's doing. But then like Shuri, like I think Shuri was to me the star of like I mean obviously like they positioned her that way, but like man, did she take the torch and like run with it? You know, I can see people having like some problems with it, but for the most part, man, I think a flawless movie, at least a flawless attempt at a movie.
No, I agree. I would. I mean, my immediate out of the movie reactions, I tweeted it out, was emotional. Emotional was the key word for this movie, but it had to be. It had to be emotional. It had to have that weight. And you're talking about the loss of a beloved actor, an icon. The guy was Black Panther. So I felt like it had to have that, and it was good. Now, the one thing I would say is that, again, the movie for me, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, like 8 to 9. It was a good movie. It was a great movie. I loved it. I'm going to go back and see it again. My only criticism in my one tweet was the length. It did feel you did feel the length of the movie because of
I
the
don't know.
emotion that
I
they had
feel
to
like
draw out.
now because of your big llama rant, it had to be because like that. Like I knew how long it was. I mean, I think we talked about this, a couple
Yeah. Oh
episodes.
yeah.
But like we knew how long it was gonna be. So like I went in kind of prepared and like I don't know, maybe I was just that into the movie that I didn't think about it like as much as I thought I was. Like because I was like timing it before the show, and I was like, I want to get back and try to stream before the show. So I was timing it in that aspect, but like I wasn't like feeling like, oh man, this is dragging like the whole minute. And honestly, I was gonna leave like before the mid credit scene because I knew what it was. But then like the way the movie ended, I was like, nah, I got to see like how the mid credit scene presented itself. Because like at first I was like, good mid credit scene, don't really care as much as I thought especially because I was like looking forward to like Doctor Doom. Spoiler alert, no Doctor Doom,
Right.
but yeah. So like even then, I was like, yeah, let me just wait and see how it puts the bow on this, and I mean, honestly, it did. So
Oh
I don't know the length thing. I see a lot of people talking about it. It didn't affect me as much, so maybe I just like the movie that much, you know. But
yeah. No, I mean, world building had to be there. The Namor stuff was great. Namor was great himself. Shuri, of course, it's her character arc. It's her story from beginning to end. I don't. You might be right. It might be my experience with having kind of being a little bit out of sorts in the theater. But that's what I felt immediately following it. Now, as we talked about the movie, we did that whole comparison thing. Like we would say, okay, which one did we like better? We talked about it in the car. And, obviously the first one holds itself a little bit higher because it's the original. It had, it was exciting, right? And because it had to be emotional, the second one, again, not knocking it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I knew it had to have the weight, and it didn't have the ability to play right the way that the first one did. So it was one of those things where I like the first one better because of how it was structured and everything. And then, but the second one is great. It's a great movie, fabulous movie. And yeah, I loved all of the reveals. I love the different pieces that I saw, and that post credit or mid credit scene. I mean, it had Mama Llama tearing up more than she thought she would. And it just put that nice sort of, that, like you said, put it in, wrap it in a bow. And it made it whole. It made it whole and everything else. So, and it made sense then. Like it tied everything else together. Why Nakia was missing for so long, why she was not part of this whole thing. So, all right. So we've been as non-spoilery as we could be, giving people opportunities to maybe close their ears a little bit, but we're going to get right into spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie, we apologize. We're going to talk about spoilers. We've got the spoiler warning. Thank you, Big Poppy Angie, for the spoiler warning at the bottom. All right, so let's talk about this movie, like everything that you so what was the most surprising thing about the movie that you saw that you thought like, oh shit, they did that?
Nothing really. To be honest, I figured they were gonna have Shuri, like even before they revealed that Shuri was the next Black Panther. I figured they were gonna go with that storyline because it's prevalent in the comics. I mean, M'Baku as well, but I just felt like they did. I don't know. Maybe because I haven't really sat with the thoughts yet, but like you going to your point about like the first one being better, I honestly feel like this one might be a better film for what it's doing. Like it might just be a better film overall. Like I think what Black Panther was like, especially in 2016, like the wave it brought, like there was a different energy when Black Panther dropped, right? And I remember seeing it in theaters and like feeling like excited. But this one, man, like I said, I knew everything going in. I knew how it was gonna play out. I knew, what they were gonna the Namor story. I think surprisingly, if I had to say it, that how much I cared about the Namor's people. Like they really did a good job of like making it not feel like Atlantis and giving it that like Aztec feel.
Oh yeah.
And I think the representation, obviously being Spanish, like it was just dope. Like, you know what I mean? Like a movie with an all black cast and an all Hispanic cast, a superhero movie. Like to me, like that was like the biggest thing. I think like when I left the theater, I was like, man, that was like a dope. It had me thinking like, how can I get like, I need to make a comic, like my brain starts working like that. But yeah. So yeah, nothing surprised me in terms of like the storytelling, but just like how much I felt in this movie. Like the whole way I was just like going through this like emotional ride up and down. Like I would feel like a little happy. Like I think Riri Williams was like a great addition. I saw people like when they were talking about the length, like, oh, you could have cut a lot of the Riri scenes. Like you didn't really need her, but like to me, like I think you did because she brought like a lightheartedness. It wasn't like that, like again, that MCU, we're gonna throw a joke every 5 minutes, but there was like a lightheartedness that her being around Shuri brought. And I thought like their relationship was super dope because they're both young black women who are supremely intelligent, so I think they relate to each other a little bit different than like other people. Like even at the end when she built the exact car, and got the parts from the ocean. Like I thought that was like a powerful moment. And obviously, there was a lot of father drama in this movie. I think maybe that's another reason why I'm so emotional. Like, man, everybody lost their father here. They're all talking about their father being gone.
Yeah. Well, I like to, and it's I heard criticism of it, but I honestly had no issue with it. Was how it started. Like I know John Campia is ranting and raving about the intro of this movie about how he hated that it was just so unknown of what the disease was, but it's kind of a where art imitates life, right? Like like we didn't know, and again that's why I think it was very emotional, very touching. We didn't know Chadwick Boseman had this disease or he had cancer or whatever it was, and we had no idea he was suffering, right? And it's the same thing that you get in the beginning of this movie. You have no clue that the Black Panther was, the character was suffering and was sick. And and that whole thing that Shuri, has the ability and the strength and the technology, but just couldn't do it,
Yeah,
or
and I
just
think
couldn't
that
get it
was like
done.
I think that was
Oh,
the best way to handle it. I think I haven't heard him talk about it, so I'm kind of curious. Like after the show, I'm definitely gonna go like see what his thoughts on it. But that's my first thought too. Was like, oh wow, like you said, like that's exactly what happened in real life with him. Like
yeah,
nobody knew, and then we found out later on, and it's like throughout the whole Black Panther filming, he's like suffering, and nobody knows, and like I think it was like a perfect way to do it. But I also think like, what do you say? He has cancer, and then it's like,
right.
like what disease would you give him to make it all right? Like he had to either die or like I'm glad they showed us the whole process though, because
Yeah,
like it
yeah,
could have been easily just like he died, we didn't know he was sick, whatever. And they could have just, had the funeral and it could have been way less impactful, I think. So I think
yeah.
this was the right way to do it. And, like how else would he die? Like in battle? Like probably not, like
Right,
'cause then
right.
we wouldn't see any of it or I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, yeah. Well, then you'd have to have like um a fight sequence. You would have had to have had some kind of drawback to him, and so I think it was just done appropriate. And then you know the main thing is I loved the fact that it was silent. Like
Yeah.
once he passed and once it was done, it went silent. And then the Marvel
The
credits had his
Marvel,
his
oh man.
oh, I mean, how his images, and it was quiet, and then you break into the funeral and the celebration, and it was perfect. And that part, and again, Shuri being so close to trying to figure out how to do it, and then having that guilt, and that's a good part of the story. She had that guilt throughout the movie. Was
Yeah.
I have the ability. I've been given the tools. I've been given the knowledge, but I could do nothing about it to save my brother. And that was so powerful. And then again, you get into this beautiful sort of celebration of his life, and honoring, and then that whole funeral scene, how they did that, and how the casket had his emblem and his arms crossed. I
Oh
I
man,
just
yeah, that was
yeah.
dope.
I
I
mean, that to me was so emotional and so great,
I
but
think I think
appropriate.
it really gave her character motivation though. Because like obviously she doesn't figure out the heart-shaped herb until after she's her interactions with Namor and then utilizing like something from their land that or like that tree thing which is connected to the heart-shaped herb in some way. It's like the same power. So I don't know. It was just good writing. Like you set it up the whole time she's fighting with like it's almost like faith versus science because she's like telling like the ancestors aren't coming, blah blah blah. Like the whole
Yeah,
movie, she's telling her mom like, yeah, why are we doing this? Like that wasn't him. That was just you in the moment type of thing. And I think they also did a good job of like setting up the Killmonger aspect. Like
oh
we'll
yeah,
we'll, we'll get to that part, but like
yeah,
having her be angry and like Namor even brought it up like I heard you when you were on the beach and you told your mom you want to burn this place down. Like she was angry because she couldn't. I don't know if she was angry at herself or the whole thing in general. Like obviously losing a brother after losing her father not too long ago. I mean, probably like what was like 6-7 years ago, and then losing your brother who you're super close with, and like you said, being able to eventually figure out the thing that probably would have cured him, but also like not doing it in time and just learning like no matter what you can do with your mind, you can't just nobody defeats father time. Like
right,
so, I thought it
yeah.
was good motivation.
And it sets up her battle between the like religion versus science, and like you said, and I think that was an interesting story to sort of, and it's a meaty story to try to put in there, but she clearly was the denier of all those things that were spiritual. And so it was refreshing that she had that perspective, but also I think again that's part of the arc. That's part of her
But
story arc.
that's another thing. Like, she wasn't in the first movie. She wasn't against any of it. There was none of that. But it was because of the situation and what happened made her it shut her off from it. And again, like, I think this thing hit a lot of like my like personal things because like the religion aspect, like when you see something in a religion, like especially growing up around a bunch of different ones where like a lot of my family members were tied to the religion very heavily and you would see it. If you find something in the religion that you don't like connect with, it's hard to really believe in it. So I think they did a good job of displaying that, but also like bringing her back and like making her believe in what her ancestors were doing the whole time. Again, towards the end. So again, it was like a good what do you say? This was like a what do you call that? Like when they introduce a superhero?
Origin story.
Yeah, it was like a good origin story. When you really think about it, like nobody's looking at it like that. But if this movie came out and this is how we got our Black Panther, this would be a tremendous origin story.
Oh, well, yeah, for sure. For sure. And then, you've got, again, Shuri, the weight of this movie falls on her shoulders and she does a great job from an actress perspective and even the story perspective. You felt all the emotions that she would go through. But, Angela Bassett, just completely killed this role. Like she was spectacular. Okay. And I mean, that whole first sequence of
the courtroom, like in the ambassador's room or whatever. Oh man, that was a powerful scene because she showed her strength, but like she held her. I wanted to see her a little bit more sad, but like I think like when you go through situations like that, the mom is always the one that like stone faced. Like it's true to a mother's role. So like a little bit, I want to see a little bit more for like her sadder side of it, but. Man, like I think she said it in the movie, like, he died and I had to take over the country and like I didn't, I grieved on my own time, but like I realized like I still have to keep going, and like you said, that intro scene of like how they showed both sides of like the people trying to get the vibranium and then the Dora Milaje like capturing them. And then while she's speaking and then they bring them in, like powerful scene. And it shows how strong Wakanda is.
Oh yeah,
even in weakness.
I mean, she threw down the gauntlet, man. She said, if you do this again, you're gonna feel
won't be nice. Yeah,
you're gonna feel it. And just because we don't have our Black Panther doesn't mean we can't protect our own. And I mean, it was just like that was a badass scene with the Dora Milaje and well, and then they introduced the Namor and his crew, right? I thought that was pretty cool how they just like mind controlled them with with the sonar and they just jumped into the water.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it at the moment, but as you watch the movie, you figure out what it is. But yeah, I was like, damn, that's pretty dark. He just killed all these guys, and Namor killed like he just took that helicopter, killed everybody. Or was it Namor? Yeah, it was Namor. It was Namor.
Yo, yeah, that was a sick way to introduce him. Like they just showed him in the shadows floating after he just throws a helicopter in the water. I thought that was a sick, but that was just dope. Again, a lot of attention to detail with like the cultures. And like I don't know if it's necessarily like Aztec culture. I think they like merge Aztec culture with like maybe mermaid culture in a way, but that comes from like the siren stuff comes from like mermaids. Like they would sing to like the sailors and that would be the thing. So it was dope. They added that. I also thought they could have used that a little bit. Like there was like a point where they like tried to use it against the Wakandans and it didn't work. And then they just never used it again. It was like, if you really wanted to end this, all you guys got to do is start singing.
Right, exactly. They were like earplugs, boom, done. But yeah, no, it was dark and it was great to see that character introduction for Namor because he's in the shadows. You don't see him, really clearly. Yeah. In fact, you don't see. I think you see a couple of his henchmen and the different characters that are his soldiers. But it's all again, it's all very fresh. It's all very interesting, and they
pulled up on a whale.
Right.
Like what?
Yeah, and they and they took out all the these highly trained operatives, Um, but that's the thing, and then it culminates with the United Nations scene, and with Angela Bassett just kind of throwing it down, and that to me was like the perfect first act of the movie. It's like, we know what's happening. Here's the supposed bad guy. Here's the struggle and the story just moves from that point on. And so it was a tough transition. So that's the one thing I would give them the most credit, is that you go from the death of Chadwick Boseman and the Black Panther, this celebration, this very, very, somber mood, to then really getting into the story. Like, you have to get into it. And it was a great transition. It wasn't forced. It was great. It was perfect. And then, then you start to, see the different characters, and you start to understand who's going to be the players in here. But yeah, man, Namor decimated those guys, and it was great to see. It was great.
I mean, the Telecom people are strong. Like, I was thinking about that during the movie, like especially like towards the end during the actual fight scene. I was like, man, like they just introduced them to the MCU, but like if we see some of these people in like not Endgame, but like Secret Wars or like something like that, like they're gonna be effing shit up. Like, honestly,
yeah, no,
like
and this is the first. Namor called himself a mutant.
Yeah.
So that's a great like not introduction, but it's like a great sort of like planting the seed that mutants are here.
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
and they're strong. I mean, like when you think about like Kamala is the first technically mutant in the MCU that we know of, but obviously not, because he's been here for how many, you know what I mean? He's been here since, what was it? It was like 1376 AD or something.
Yeah, something.
But yeah, so mutants been around, which is like kind of dope, because now we can expect like to be like, oh, that's why we didn't, they'll have a story of why we didn't see all these mutants before. Because I don't know. Like
they might be
they didn't specify also. They didn't specify also if like this was, anything with the snap or like what happened to his people. So I thought that was kind of cool too. Like, you kind of really moving away from the snap itself.
Yeah. I mean, you could have used the snap for a story point, but that's good. And I think with mutants and the way that the X-Men stories are, is that a lot of them are in hiding. A lot of them do not want to reveal that they have powers. So that to me lends itself to having them not participate in these big events. Now that it's become more and more mainstream and accepted, you might see more and more mutants start to expose themselves in terms of powers.
Yeah.
But even in the early X-Men movies, that was still a thing that they did, was like they kept them, they hid the kids, they protected them, they sent them to special schools so that, the government can keep the secret. So, and then, Angela Bassett, is the first to meet Namor. Her and Shuri are the first to meet Namor, one-on-one. And very, very sympathetic character, very, and kind of brings to light the colonization, right, of his people when he tells the story, which again is true to real life, like that's what happened. Like, these huge, civilizations and cultures had these established, traditions and things, and then people came and just took them out.
But like Namor said, his resource, like they'll take us for our resources,
right?
And again, something that hits me in the nerves, a little bit. But I think now that we're actually talking about it, I think like his story is very similar to Shuri's in terms of like his mom would always talk about the outside world, and then when her only request was like when she dies, bury her in where she comes from, and the first thing he sees is that. So it's like that switch of like how Shuri stops believing in like the traditions of Wakanda. He kind of like that shut him off from like even wanting to be, because he's half human. So it's like he comes from up here, but he in that moment when he saw the pillaging and stuff, he was like, no, like I'm not I'm not fucking with up here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and one thing about him is his story is like very sympathetic, but the actor did a good job of like switching into like a ruthless person. Like there was multiple times where he's like being very like charismatic and charming, and then he's like, I will kill you. Like, and you don't want my people coming after you. So like you gotta give kudos to the actor as well.
Yeah, no, he did a great job. So again, that he establishes himself. Angela Bassett, and the great thing is, you know, now you've got this story between their contacts, right? The agent, it's Martin Freeman, but I forgot what his name is in the
Colson or something.
He's one of those guys, but they can't tell him who it is. They can't, because the name says, "Do not tell him about me, or else it's going to get even worse." And so I thought that Martin Freeman's character, and I think they introduce what's her name from the Thunderbolts.
Yeah. Something Ross. That's his name, Ross.
Ross, yeah. So I thought Agent Ross and his ex-wife were kind of they didn't progress the story along, you know, very much, other than getting them to the scientist, right? To Ironheart. But it just seemed like that's where when I say linked, those are little things that I look at. I go, you know, if I had a little less of this, that would have been a bit better. But it was fun. They were kind of a fun break from the very heavy parts of this movie. But yeah, man, it starts to get a little bit, you know, a little bit more exciting. And now we've got, you know, Namor, and then they come in, they attack Wakanda head on. Like that's
right away.
That's some bold stuff, man. But you know, I love the fact that they had to find. I forgot her name. Is it Riri Williams?
Yeah.
Is that her name? And is that her?
No,
that's her name in the movie, right?
That's her name. In
the
movie.
That's okay. Yeah. So I love the fact that they had to find her, and when they find her, she's basically Shuri 2.0, right? She's another, you know, very gifted, gifted, educated, you know, just superstar. And the fact that she, like, even Shuri is impressed, like, with her work. I was like, damn, she's formidable in terms of in you know, matching Shuri's sort of energy. But they find her, and she's just a breath of fresh air, man. She was great.
Yeah.
I think she has a series
immediately
coming out there, right?
Yeah, Ironheart, which is kind of dope, because I'm curious, like, if they kind of set it up, but also, again, like I said earlier, these two characters are like, there's not many people that I'm sure they can relate to on like their intellect. So to find each other, I think it's gonna be like, I think they're gonna play an integral part in each other's stories going forward. But yeah, the way they introduced her, like she's hustling, like building side projects because she's at MIT, which I saw like right before we started started streaming, that I forgot MJ is going to MIT as well.
Oh, that's right.
So that I think that would be like a good way to cross paths with like Spider-Man and another Iron Man. Well, Ironheart now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a great introduction. And I thought her character, again, lighthearted throughout the whole movie. Like every time her scene came on, except for like, you know, towards like when the shit starts hitting the fan and like they're actually in war. But even then, those parts are like the more lighthearted moments.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, she was great. And yes, it got a little funny with Okoye, you know, dressing up and Sherry calling her out. And then I think it was just it had those are the moments that I enjoy in Marvel movies, which is, you know, it's a heavy subject. You're going through this very great story, and then there's just moments where you can just breathe for a minute and just, you know, like enjoy this you know, interaction. And it was great that Okoye had to get dressed up, and they were making fun of her makeup and everything else. And but I think an undertone of this one, and it could be missed, is Okoye's, you know, sort of ascension. I don't know what character she is. In the end, I think she has that blue suit. I don't know the comics that well, but I think it's also her origin into that particular superhero character.
Yeah.
And her story is actually pretty damn powerful, but it's just not featured, you know, like it's not like prominent. But those scenes with Angela Bassett when she gives that speech to her, and that she, you know, for losing Shuri and Riri, it's like oh my god, like that was just two powerhouse actresses, like giving it their all, because that was impactful. They were, you know, and you know, that's when you felt the full weight of Angela Bassett's like frustration with this whole thing. And I had like mentally wrote it down in my brain. I was like, you know, Angela Bassett had receipts. He's like, remember when Killmonger was in here? Remember when you know, you wouldn't support me? I was like, fuck, she just like lit her on fire. But it needed to be done. I mean, just a great sequence. And
it just shows you the weight of the situation. Like, and like you said, I mean, her frustration with losing everybody around her. Like, she didn't want Shuri to go, and that's why she didn't want her to go, because anything could happen, especially like with what's going on around them. Like, anything could have happened. Namor could have went and attacked, you know, found out about Riri early on, and then attacked before she even got the powers, you know? Because like that was one thing that I liked too, that it wasn't like Shuri became Black Panther early on and we just watched her like become, you know, train or anything. Like, I think it was more impactful that they had like that moment where he brought her to Talokan and she saw what it was under there, and when he like really gave his backstory and told him like kind of his gripes and stuff, and you can see like he was winning her over until he was like, yo, like we still gotta kill her. Like she brings a lot of danger to us, which it's totally understandable because of what we've seen him, you know, what his first visuals of the outside world are. And honestly, that's what's gonna happen. You know, I think that was another good thing too, that that what do you call it? That they didn't expose Namor either. Like nobody outside, you know, like Ross and them didn't find out about Namor at all. And I think that was a good part, because it's like you can give us another Namor story where the same problem kind of is happening, and maybe it gets, you know, they actually touch down and take that vibranium, because clearly that's what the Thunderbolt's gonna be focused on. I mean, when she said, or when he was like, what do you think would happen if like we had, as in the United States had all that vibranium and we're the only one? She's like, I dream of it. Like, so you know that's gonna be her main focus. And I think that's why it's kind of hard to cut that plot line out. You know, I don't know, maybe like them being married. I think that was like a cool tie-in. But she's been showing up in so much stuff that it's like we already know she's gonna get built up to build the Thunderbolts. But now we know like exactly. I think that's gonna be the motivation. Like the Thunderbolts are probably gonna try to like maybe attack, you know, Namor and them, or Wakanda or something, like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna be misguided for you know, with her for sure. And they all have questionable characters, and they're all, you know, have questionable motives. So it's going to be an interesting movie for sure. But I do like that it's incorporating the different pieces of the phase that are in there, and it does, you know, again, that's something that probably won't be recognized or praised, but it does a good job of tying in the rest of the MCU that you've seen up to this point into this movie. Again, it's not the main focus of the movie, but it does a good job of just giving you the pieces so that when you see them again, you know why you're seeing what you're seeing. So if the Thunderbolts interact with Namor or have beef with Namor, we know it's because of what happened in this movie. Which is a great foundation.
And it opens the door for like the Doctor Doom aspect of like, maybe she goes to Liberia, where Doctor Doom is like the ruler of, and like you know, like, oh yo, we found underwater, whatever, you know, like it opens the door for anything to happen. So I think it was like not integral, but it was a necessary part to the movie. But also I could see your point of like, maybe if we cut it a little bit, or like did it in a different way where it wasn't like going back and forth. Because it wasn't like the United States didn't get involved. It was literally Wakanda versus Talokan the whole time. But it made it feel like the U.S. can get involved at any point, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And then you get you get the backstory. Namor gives us the information. Shuri is starting to feel sympathy. It's clear. It's clear. You've got Nakia coming down to save them, and then what you get is I mean, I thought it was a huge left turn. Was Angela Bassett's character, her demise, her dying in the movie,
Yeah.
which again is another heavy moment for Shuri. But damn, like that hit me too, because I was like, no, not, I had a feeling she was going to when they pulled them both out. I'm like, okay, first of all, Ironheart can't die. So, and I think she's going to make it. But I didn't think they were going to kill her off, man. I was like, damn. But it only added to that performance and to Shuri's arc is like, you've lost everything.
Yeah.
And you again, her emotions were right there. So,
I mean, it gave more reason for her, like being on that, because there was a lot of talk of vengeance, and it gave her more credence to like go towards that and like really be ruthless in terms of like, because at this point, like, well, no, because at the end she's not going to be the queen, but that I thought it was a powerful scene too when Namor like looked at her and was like, end this, you're the queen now, like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like he knew he killed her mom, like now it's your say, so I don't know, man. Wow, damn, I think Namor was my favorite part of the movie. To be honest, now that I think about it, like, great villain. Like, because he's like so charming, but then like ruthless is like, that was, to me, like that was a cold-hearted moment. That's like one of the coldest things a villain has done in a movie besides like Thanos' snap. But like, think about it, like he knows he killed your mom and just told you like, yo, more of this is gonna happen.
Right. It's inevitable, right? Like it's gonna happen.
And they kind of foreshadowed it like early on when Queen Ramonda had like that meeting when they basically broke them out,
Mm-hmm.
And he said like, if any Wakanda ships are in the water, your people come find her, whatever. He's like, I'm gonna kill you, and true to his word, like literally the next scene.
Yeah, and again, it was Nakia just doing her job to try to find her that sparked the war. But man, it was just.
Oh no, I look at that as like chess moves, because it was like, right at the same time. I mean, they lured him out for that purpose, and he said like, and his thing was like, yo, if there's anything, it just so happens when he goes back, that the girl dies, and then he's like, yo,
and he saw that as a deception. He saw that as game on. I mean, but as you progress through the movie, now the stakes are real. Now the stakes are high. We haven't talked much about M'Baku, but I had read on something he had written, or he was being interviewed for the movie, and he kind of said that his role, which again, I think they underused him, but they he
I
had
agree.
his moments.
I don't think he was like. I feel like he should have been in the movie a lot more. Like when he was on there, I was like, damn, like I wanted a little bit more of him, but my bad.
No. But honestly, I think what he had said was that he was kind of the pressure release. Like he had a couple of moments where he had some funny lines, and he was really just kind of like the big brother for Shuri to sort of lean on, give a little bit of advice, right? Like to Shuri and so I liked it when he describes that. Like after I keep thinking about how his role was, it made sense. It made total sense that he was there to just be a supportive character to Shuri during this journey. It wasn't his movie to take over, even though I think at the end it hints that he, is going to help or whatever. But yeah, I think he was underutilized, but still effective, right? He had some of the best one-liners in the movie. We were joking about it over the weekend. We're like, we kept saying, call him Kukulkan. And I was like, oh shit. But nah, man, he was the one who knew Namor's story. He knew what this guy was a bad man. So M'Baku was something we didn't talk a lot about because he wasn't in there too much. And then we just kind of we missed it a little bit. Killmonger makes an appearance in the Celestial Plane, right? The ancestors. And what was funny is like he was like, "You didn't expect me, did you?"
Yeah.
And that was a great scene because that's what was in her heart, I think.
Yeah.
Was the rage. And so he was the visualization.
He said it though. He said, "You chose me," and she's like, "No, I didn't." But like, yeah, that again, it played good to that vengeance plot line because she was really like, she just wanted blood. She was out for blood. Like she was like, "Yo, my
right.
family's gone out. I'm going out for blood." And I think, one thing I got to commend them though, that did not come out at all of him, of Michael B. Jordan being in the movie. And I gotta say, I mean, you know me, like I'm all over the internet, all over these movies. Like that did not come out at all. And I was like, that was dope that it didn't come out because if it would have came out, a lot of people would have assumed it was him, like as the new Black Panther. And I think it would have caused some outrage early on. Not necessarily like crazy where it's like, oh, why would you? But a lot of people were kind of like, don't make him Black Panther right away, at least. Like if you're gonna do it, because there's a plot line, he does get revived like in the comic books. So it's like the story could have went that way. But I thought it was good. Like you bring him in. I don't know how his hair grew. That's one thing. I was like, his hair grows in death. Like, but yeah, I thought that was dope. Like that scene was powerful because it really showed like Shuri's like true intentions to like, at least her mindset of like what she's thinking at the moment, especially with like getting the power because she's drinking that and she knows she's gonna have the power of the Black Panther. So it's like, what is she gonna do with that power? So again, I think it hurt too. Like when she was like, why didn't like they didn't come? Like her family didn't come, and I think that was like one of those heartfelt moments too. It's like, damn, like,
yeah. I mean, nobody was there for her. It was just, but she had so much hate. She had so much hate, and so much vengeance that there's no other way that it wasn't going to be Killmonger, right? But like, you're right. I'm glad I didn't know he was going to be in it because when I saw him in the movie, I go, oh wow, that's great. Like this makes sense.
See, I didn't get that surprise because I did find out this week, like when the movie came out. But I wish I didn't hear that part because I would have been like totally like, oh shit, like that makes sense. Like it for what she's going through. I think he was the perfect person to be there because it was like egging in on to that side.
Yeah, no, I think if I had known he was going to be in the movie, I would have kept that hype, that thought of maybe there's a way that he becomes the Black Panther. But I didn't know he was going to be in it. He shows up. I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, man, this is great. And again, the illustration was clear. It's like you feel like what he felt. And that's why you're seeing him now. And that was great. That was a great transition to see him. And again, gives you a sense of where her heart is. And then you get that, and this is, again, I've read I love reading the criticism of it because I kind of bring it back to what I saw. And I don't necessarily agree, but that the last and final act of the whole action sequence, I think there was some kind of scuttle about that it kind of lacks a little bit of direction or it's kind of all over the place. I still enjoyed it. I didn't think it was all over the place. I enjoyed what I saw, and it was a climactic end to this this conflict that was been brewing. But again, underneath it all is Shuri. The whole thing is about Shuri. Her taking the mantle, her getting the heart-shaped herb, her fixing the issues, her realizing, the mistakes that she's made or the things that she's felt in her heart. And it all comes to a head, and it's just a glorious ending. I love the ending. I don't know what you thought about it, but
I mean, I would have to hear or read what they what the criticism is on that because to me, thinking about it, I didn't feel like it was all over the place. I feel like There was the big battle on the ship. There was her battle with Namor, and that's it. Like towards the end, because like the Riri stuff, that's all on the ship. Like that to me, that was a good part. Now, maybe I would have like kind of it ended like not abruptly, but it was like, you know, she almost kills Namor. And like I think she showed a lot of heart in that because he definitely got the one up on her, which that would have been, imagine they killed her too.
Oh
Like,
God, jeez.
imagine they killed her too and Namor wins. Like that would have been crazy. I mean, obviously they wouldn't have done that, but like it looked like he had the upper hand. I mean, he was still kind of weak and like again, it was that showed like it showed like her aspects of being the Black Panther. Like she outthinks. She's not necessarily like the combat fighter. I think that was good about that. Like it wasn't like she got the Black Panther suit and was like all of a sudden like just beating ass. You know what I mean? Like she took some hits and like I think it was a powerful scene when she was about to stab him and then she finally gets the vision of her mom like coming to her. Because I think that was like that come to God moment, like realizing like, oh wow, like this
It's
stuff
real.
Yeah, because she still wanted to doubt it, even though she saw Killmonger. She still wanted to doubt it because she saw Killmonger. It was like, oh well, that's not who I wanted to see, so it's not real. Like even when what's her name? I forgot. Why am I blanking? Lupita Nyong'o's character,
Nakia.
in the Kia, yeah. When she was like asking her, like, really, who did you see? Like, cause she knew, like, you saw somebody, like,
Yeah, exactly.
I think that was like it gave her that closure a little bit, you know, like, oh yeah, now I believe, and she spares this guy, and I thought that was kind of a weird thing, like when they like fly back together, like they're all cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's over now, we're good.
Everything's fine, guys.
Yeah,
We just beat the shit out of each other. We probably lost some friends, but we're good now.
We're good now. Go back to what we're doing.
You know, I just like I said, I enjoyed it very much. I think it was an excellent movie. The Namor stuff was great. The world building was great. But let's talk about that post credit.
Well, before we get there, I think they
okay.
set up Namor great though. Like,
oh yeah,
because it does show like the girl was like, "Yo, I've been really, you know, wanting to. Like, I couldn't wait to fight alongside you growing up, and then for you to just like kneel down to the Wakandans, and he's like, they're gonna need us, and you know what I mean, and then I think I'm pretty sure like the angle I was sitting at, because again, it was a full theater, by the way. But the angle I was sitting at, it was kind of dark. So I don't know like what he painted, but it looked like that Kukulkan, like the spirit itself, like attacking a panther. So like I think that was like good setup for like the future, because in the comics he's like an anti-hero, like he'll help or be the bad guy. And I think they set him up like really well to do that in the future, whether it be in another Black Panther project or what we were talking about earlier. But yeah, that's my final thoughts on the Namor thing.
No, I mean he is about his people, and he's gonna do the best thing for his people, and that can make you a hero. It can make you
ruthless, and he's ruthless in it. Even like that.
Yep.
Again, that's what I keep going back to. But even in that scene, like shows like he's forward thinking. Like if the time comes, we could take them out if we want to, or we could use them, and they're one of the most powerful nations above ground. We could use them for our advantage, because again, the colonization's coming eventually. We know like that's what they're setting up, right? Like
it's a repeat of what happened to his people, and he doesn't want that, and he's definitely going to fight against it. So, and I'm sure there's going to be bigger and more superhero type government types who are going to try to get this. I mean, the vibranium is such a powerful sort of entity in this Marvel universe that you're going to have, you know, bigger, you know, bad people just coming out to try to get this vibranium, and it's going to be great. So it's a good thing that, you know, that they can set up stories, and then they can sort of merge some of these guys together. So, you know, and then you've got Kang sitting in the background with Ant-Man. Like you've got, I mean, I am just excited for the next phase.
I think that's what another thing this movie did well was, like, again, we've been talking about it, the lulls of Phase 4 a little bit, you know.
Yep.
We've had our high points each personally. Like I know, like we've liked different shows a little bit more than the other, you know. But this one was like really, it didn't do that crazy setup where it was like the normal MCU stuff, like we're setting up for the future. But what they did tie it in is like, yeah, the next couple phases are gonna be sick, especially if we know what's coming down the line. And
Yeah,
the chance
sure.
of seeing these characters again.
Yeah, no, and there's gonna be good reason to see them again, and that's why I think they've done a good job. So
Yeah.
so that post credit scene. So the only I think the post credit scene is, and again, one of the most powerful scenes to sort of wrap this story up, right? Like it tugged at the heartstrings, it had the emotional lift, and it made, and that's what a good post credit scene does, or mid credit, whatever you want to call it. What it does is it helps either close out the movie you just watched, right, or help answer this final question of as to what's next, or gives you just that little bit of like anticipation for the next thing. But the fact that they wrapped up Nakia's story and Shuri's story and showing them where she was all this time and what the Black Panther was aware of, what Chadwick's character was aware of. This kid, they had a kid, and they had, and he didn't want anyone to know, because he wants this kid to grow up outside of the world that he knows is getting more, more and more messy, especially if he's not going to be there. So the name reveal, I think, was the part that got, most people in the theater, which is, you start with his Haitian name, right? Toussaint, right? And you're like, oh, that's a pretty significant Haitian name. And then he hits you with that, I am Prince T'Chaka, or T'Challa, son of King T'Challa. And I'm like, oh God, this kid, it looks just like him. Mannerisms are like him. And
that was like crazy
great
casting, because it did, like, it felt, I don't know, it felt like actual Chadwick Boseman's legacy living on in these movies. Like that's what it really felt like. And it was crazy. It's like I knew to look for, but like he shows up in the movie early on, like when
I heard.
Yeah,
I didn't catch
when Ramonda like gets there, he's the one that like speaks.
Yeah, I
Like
someone had said that, and I didn't see it.
Yeah.
At first.
But yeah, man. That again, I knew it was coming. I almost left, and I still almost teared up. Like I was like, wow, like father issues always hit me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's true. It's like the father is absent from this story and he's gone from the world, and it's like damn, like this is terrible. Like this sucks. And you feel for the kid, like he has to grow up without such a great presence that Chadwick or Black Panther or T'Challa, whatever you want to call him, right? He's not there anymore. And this kid grows up without it. And it's kind of like, I don't know, I always like to equate movies to bigger things, right? I love, to me, movies speak to me about life, right? So having him not be able to experience, this kid who is probably not that old, right? Not being able to experience Chadwick Boseman's greatness, the Black Panther's greatness, the greatness of his father, and he's gone. I think it's just, that's what tugs at the heartstrings for me, is like, that's what hit me. It was that he's not going to see that. And he grows up in a world without it. And so it sucks, man. It's a completely shitty thing, but it gives you a little bit of hope, right? And I think that's how I took that last scene. I don't know. You said, you had the father issues, but like, it's true though. It's absolutely true.
Yeah. I mean, I heard some theories of like they could, now that they set him up, there will be like another T'Challa Black Panther in the MCU. And they were like, well, with Kang and like time travel or like different, variants now, with the variants, we could find a variant of Black Panther and that'd be like their solution long term. Because even though I think Shuri like did great, I don't know if they're gonna keep her as the Black Panther in the long run. Maybe like next couple appearances, but like even the M'Baku becoming king, like
Yeah.
like I think that just shows like Shuri's mind state. Like she doesn't want all that, like she's the genius. I think like she'll get back to that role, but she'll play with the role she needs to now, And again, I don't know much about the Shuri comic books itself, so I don't know like how that kind of plays out. But I know the mantle gets changed a couple times, so I think like they set it up where she can be the next Black Panther, or they can do a couple other things where they can have Black Panther again, a different version.
Yeah, I mean the kid could grow up and to be, the Black Panther.
Yeah, they were talking about like Young Avengers.
Yeah, because he's a teenager.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, he'd be a teenager around the Young Avengers time. But it gives you a story that you can build off of. Right now, there's this whole he's growing up outside of Wakanda, and Shuri is looking after him, or that kind of stuff. But like again, I liked that it wrapped the story up. It gave everything you wanted, everything you were looking for, and it did what it was supposed to do, which is give that heartfelt, emotional punch, right, to end and put an exclamation mark on the Black Panther and Chadwick's career, and move the story, progress it along, and give you an entertaining and just a really good movie. Yeah. Opening weekend gross is already 380 million just for worldwide box office in its first weekend. So, I think it's 180 million domestic, in the States. One of the biggest box office opening weekends. Biggest obviously in the holiday season in November. So from a financial perspective, this movie knocks it out of the park. It's going to get repeat viewings. I don't know what that drop off will be in the second week, but I do know it's going into it'll have stronger legs Thanksgiving week, because you've got a lot of people out for school and work and the Thanksgiving weekend. So that's the third weekend it'll be out. So this movie could be huge. I mean, it's going to be one of the biggest movies, obviously, of this year. But it's got the proper setup to make tons of money, and it's rewatchable. There's a lot of things missed, a lot of different things that people have missed. So I definitely can't wait to see it again. Going to definitely check it out again. So final rating before we move on to another topic. Final rating, what would you give it, AD? What's your rating on it?
A 9.
Okay, you said 9.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to stick to my guns. I think I said between 8 and 9. I'll go 8.5 out of 10. I think that's fair. I think it's good. It's a great movie. 8.5 out of 10 is a great movie. Big Poppy Angie, you've been quiet. What would you give it? What would you give it as an overall assessment?
I'd probably stick with an 8.5 to a 9. I'm probably sticking to that range.
Did you like it better than the first one?
I think because I think they did a good job in the first one world building wise, and I think that was an overall good movie. But I feel like they did a really good job continuing it correctly. Like they didn't like butcher it or anything like that. They did everything, I feel like, which was right, and it was like pacing wise, and for that death to happen like abruptly, it's a good like change. It was a safe and good change to happen. So I think both of them did a good job, but I think the first one is probably still better. But like the second one still had more time than the first one, considering that that final scene in the first movie wasn't even finished yet, so because they were rushed. So it's good that they had enough time, but I think they both did pretty good. I think the first one's probably better though.
Okay. Yeah, no. I mean, again, when you have more than one movie, you're always going to compare it, and it's going to be one that you feel is better than the other, and that's fine. But both excellent entries into this universe. Again, my assessment of it would be, guys, go see this movie. If you haven't seen the movie, go see the movie. If you've seen it, go watch it again. It's a lot of fun. Again, it gives that proper exclamation mark, and it did what it was supposed to do. It did the impossible, which was deliver an emotional and touching tribute, at the same time progress the story, at the same time make money, at the same time properly represent Black Panther. Like, it had an impossible task, and I think Ryan Coogler and his team did it. Just an excellent movie. So definitely one to watch, and we'd be interested in what you guys think in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts are in this, for sure, because we'd love to hear what people's thoughts are on this for sure. So so AD, we'll move on to one last topic, and we'll talk about the UFC Fight Night. I think was it 281?
Yeah,
UFC 281. So I'm gonna hand it to you because you're the resident expert on the UFC.
I don't even want to talk about this, dude. I'm still sad. Morning.
Oh, jeez. So, well, first and foremost, guys, if you are not subscribed or following Blackout AD's Twitch channel for the Fight Companions, you are missing out on awesome analysis, breakdowns of each of the fights, and just a good time. You had a packed house in the Discord, and you had lots of views on your channel. So kind of go over the fight night for us and let us know what your.
I mean, it was good. It was good. I mean, it blew my mind, honestly, how good it did, because, haven't been streaming as much. I mean, a little bit more now that MW's been out. I've been a little bit more consistent, but the numbers I was at before, they haven't been there. So to see like the stream do that well, and it did probably one of my better fight nights. And I think it was just like the hype around the card too. Like, I noticed when like the bigger fights and there's like more hype in the streets, you'll start seeing people like go find their way on the Twitch. But the fact that the Discord was full for the whole time, well, not the whole, it was pretty packed, and then got to a point where we had to turn a couple people away. Like, yo, my bad. Like, it really even got me thinking, like, I think we need to have like 2 channels playing the fight in the Discord, and have like the main channel like for the stream, and we can bring people in and out, hear what they want to talk about, and then have like another one where people can just go watch, because people just like go in there and mute us and just watch the fights. So I mean, the fight nights to me are definitely like my favorite thing to do. But last night was a sad one, man. 3 fights we see here, I think that's what we'll talk about, because the rest of the card was good. Like, there was a lot of finishes, but there wasn't like excitement until the Poirier Chandler fight came on. When that fight came on, the energy, I think at MSG, because that's where it was, Madison Square Garden, the energy changed in there, man. Like, it was nuts, and they performed. Dustin Poirier wins by rear naked choke, I believe in the 3rd round, but Chandler came out swinging. Like, the first round was intense because it was like really back and forth. I didn't really think, to be honest, I thought Chandler was winning the first round until like the last like 30 seconds. And then like Poirier like kind of put a couple pieces on him where you're like, oh, that shifted the fight for sure.
I mean, they were pummeling each other.
They're going after it.
I thought Chandler, because I think that's when I joined the Discord. Chandler, I thought, was about to knock him out in that first round. I think he was hitting some shots, and that's a testament to Poirier's chin. But man, I thought it was over. I thought Chandler had it, man. But
Poirier, I mean, you got to think Poirier's he's fought high level people before, and they had like a beef going in, because when Chandler got into the promotion, Chandler was a Bellator champion for like years, and then they supposedly they threw him a huge bag to come over here, and he's been in like top fights ever since. He's only 5 fights in his UFC career, 6 fights now in his UFC career, but the people he's fighting is like literally top 5 of that division, which is lightweight, which is like probably the most talented division. Maybe bantamweight now, because a lot of bantamweights come up. But anyways, Chandler always goes out and does that. Like, starts, especially like at MSG. He had fight of the year or fight of the night last year at MSG when he fought Justin Gaethje. So it was kind of like a similar fight, but I think Dustin showed like his experience and was like, that's one thing I've noticed about Chandler, is like, not experience because he's an experienced champion, but like fighting at this level, like there's something like Justin Gaethje just had a little bit more that night, won on decision. Dustin Poirier had a little bit more and there was like, bro, this man Chandler did some dirty stuff, bro.
Mm-hmm.
He went to go. He like fish hooked Dustin Poirier to like get a choke in, like in the fight, and then like there was like talks that he like blew his nose full of blood on Poirier's face because that happened. And
He
but
was also hitting him in the back of the head, right? I think there was some back.
oh
of the
yeah,
head
there was
shots.
that one point. They didn't even mention that in
Yeah.
the post fight thing, but yeah, there was that too. But I just think Dustin showed like why he's Dustin Poirier, like why he's been number 2 fighting at the top, fighting, Conor McGregor twice, getting like those big money fights because he's that guy. I just don't know, like with Chandler, I don't know. Like there's something, it's like he has everything he needs, and then he like wants to be so exciting, he like blows his load, and then these guys weather the storm and then find a way to finish him. I mean, same thing happened with Charles Oliveira. He knocks Charles Oliveira down, and Charles Oliveira next round knocks him out. The only one he really finished he finished Dan Hooker too. He finished Dan Hooker and Tony Ferguson. But like everybody else he seems to fight like has like that step. Like they'll weather his storm. They'll take you. I mean, he doesn't hit light. He knocks people out. But he hits really hard, but they weather it and they find a way to win. And like it's funny because Dustin Poirier last fight was against Charles Oliveira and he got choked out, rear naked choke, and then he ends this fight in a rear naked choke.
He learned from the fight. But yeah, no, I'm telling you, man. I think what you were saying is right because again, just from my perspective as a novice, Chandler looked like he was primed and ready, but I think Poirier just kind of survived that first round and was calculating right at the end. And then it was a pretty much, they were trading shots.
Yeah.
And then there was just an opportunity. And when he sunk in, I think it was rear naked choke, man, he cranked that thing, man.
Yeah.
Like it was ugly. So I enjoyed that fight tremendously. Yeah. I thought it was a great fight for sure.
Fight of the night. I mean, they got fight of the night again. So,
okay.
Did. But yeah,
you predicted it. You predicted that.
Yeah. No, I mean, everybody was talking about it. Yeah. The one thing I hated was like Chandler being like, "This is the people's main event," because it was like, really, no. Like we know your fight's gonna be great, possibly fight of the night, but people are there for Adesanya and Pierre and that storyline.
Of course,
like to me. So I was like, shut up, dude. But when you really think about it, like that fight, they had beef. They're two tough people that will stand and bang. I mean, that's their forte. I mean, Chandler's more of a wrestler, but his stand-up is just as good as anybody. So it's like we knew that had fight of the night potential, and it lived up to it. And I think even Dana White in the post conference was like, he's like, yeah, we predicted that like last week. Like this was gonna be fight of the night. We should have just wrote the checks. Yeah. Next fight. Esparza versus Zhang Weili was it wasn't boring, but it was just so dominant by Zhang Weili. She retains the belt, and it was just dominant. Like it looked like Carla wasn't really. Not that she wasn't into it. It looked like she didn't have nothing for Weili. Like Weili improved and that was one thing that when Rose Namajunas beat her the first time, I believe. I don't know if the knockout was first or not. But either way, she beat her one time where she was prominently using wrestling, and Carla Esparza's strength is wrestling. But when it looked like Weili's level increased and she's gotten a lot better on the ground, Carla was in for a rough night because she wasn't going to stand with her. Like Weili's too explosive. And the fact that Weili went for like a submission and like a pretty nasty submission on her was impressive. But overall, the fight was kind of boring. I think it ended in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't look like she had the energy. Like she just looked like she was there. And again, I don't read into like because each of these fighters has their own preparation and style, and I don't know them that well. But like in watching it, I'm like, she was just kind of there. Like it just didn't seem like ready to go. Or
I don't know if that's the case. I think it was more Weili was just on. Like,
yeah.
I mean, even after people were like, I don't know if she's gonna have a performance like that dominant again, but if that's how she's fighting on a consistent basis, that division's in trouble. Like, not many people are gonna beat her. So I think it's interesting. I think the fight was boring itself, but I think it's interesting for what it does for that division because Rose Namajunas has beat her twice already, took the belt from her once, and defended the belt. And now she got the belt back. So now there's gonna be like there's been a lot of weird things in the UFC lately where it's like people are getting like 4th fights against each other. I mean, Adesanya and Pereira, this was the 3rd fight, even though it was in the same promotion, but it's like these things are like starting to occur where like these top level people are facing each other multiple times. So now it opens up like Rose like fighting her for the belt again. I think Rose probably maybe has to win one more fight, but like she's already 2-0 against her. Now she has to fight her again for the belt, which would be crazy if like Rose can just beat her again for the 3rd time for the belt. Like that'd be nuts. So I think the storylines going forward with like Wei Li being the champion opens that division up like for like, and plus she's I believe the first Chinese champion ever. And that's like and like they were booing Carla in New York because New York has like a high Chinese Asian population. So I feel like the same thing that happened with like Jeremy Lin kind of is gonna happen with her, like especially if she keeps winning in this dominant fashion.
Like Linsanity.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, not fight of the night material, but it was serviceable. It got you ready for Adesanya.
It was a co-main event, by the way.
Well, you know how I love those.
I thought about that too. Like yesterday, I was like, Llama's probably always like he hates this co-main event stuff. But now I think about it, it's like it's always gonna be like that. They're always gonna stack these cards.
Yeah. And I listen, man, I get it. It's not it's more of like just to get under your skin.
Yeah, because I hate what you said. I'm like, dude, get over it, dude. They deserve to be a main event too.
I hear you getting like more and more frustrated the more like and sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna hit him with the co-main event sucks. but no, you know what? The more I watch these fights and the more I'm listening to your analysis, I'm learning more about the fighters themselves and how this kind of all works. Again, I would give you the perspective of the common fan, but listening to you and the way that you sort of describe the fights, you talk about the preparation, the match histories amongst these fighters. It's such a great sort of buildup, right? That I understand it at that point. Like
I feel like I could get better at like the fight breakdowns. But I was thinking about this because I sent you that podcast I did for school where I broke down the UFC card. And when I was like really thinking about like my strength with this is like more so because of the storylines. Like I follow, like I'm really in tune with like how they're feeling before the fight. Like I'm watching every interview on every platform. Like, like we've had kind of a break from these like big fight cards, but like I've noticed like as soon as the fight week started last Sunday not after the show, but after the stream that I did instead of the Llama show, I was just like on it already. Like the first couple interviews, like let me hear how their mental is. Let me hear, what they think they're gonna do in the fight. So I think like I bring that perspective, and I think like I bring that not casual, but because I'm a little bit more than a casual fan, but just like to grab the people's attention. Like I want to get better at like the actual fight breakdowns of like like the techniques and stuff. But
okay, I see what you're saying.
You
but
know what I
I'm
mean?
telling you, your podcast leading up to it, and again, listening to you on the fight night breakdowns, it's almost like they have the promo cut, right? They give you the promo cut of the match, right? And it gets you invested, and you go, okay, I really want to watch this fight. But like I said, listening to you and sort of break down how we arrived at this match, what the previous fights were, what the what the history is, what the potential possibility of a next fighter, all that stuff is more interesting because again, I grew up in the WWE type world, the WWF world, where the storyline to me is more important than the fight itself. So for me to hear you break that and give me the analysis makes me. That's why I love the fight nights. I love the Fight Companion and your streams because it makes so much sense to me at that point. And then again, now I'm rooting for one over the other because I know what the story is.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you guys, if you're not listening to his Fight Companion, to any of the the UFC stuff that he's covering, you guys are missing out on learning some more about this UFC stuff. All right, but let's talk about the main card, or the last match of the night, the co-main event.
No,
So
this
what
was
are
the
your
main
thoughts,
event.
man?
They were the
Yeah.
co-main event. You got to get it right, Llama. Come on, dude. They're still the main event. There was just a
Got it.
co-main event.
Okay, got it.
They
So
don't get lessened. They're still the, they're guys.
let's talk
Marquee
about
match.
the main event.
Yeah, there it goes.
So what happened here? What happened in this match?
No, don't show that, dude. Not right now. Jesus. Well, it's Stylebender versus Alex Pereira. Where do we go? Stylebender was basically beating his ass for most of the fight, to be honest. Well, at least most people saw it like 3-1 going into the 5th round, and some, like, I've heard a couple people say 4-0 they had going into the 5th round, because the first round was kind of close, and I think that's where like most people kind of give it to Alex Pereira. But yeah, Adesanya was just kind of working him. And now the storyline before this fight was that they already fought twice. In both fights, because I watched both fights. In both fights, Adesanya is beating him. First fight, he loses in decision, so it goes to the judges, and they give it to Alex Pereira. But in that fight, it looked like he was getting beat, and it was just like not a robbery, but like close enough fight where it could have gone either way. And then the second fight, Adesanya is piecing this guy up, gives him like a standing 8 count, like rocks him really bad. And then the next round, he comes back and knocks Adesanya out. So that's the 2 fights in kickboxing. So the whole storyline is like this guy only has 5 fights. He's like, I think besides Brock Lesnar, he's the shortest stint to a championship in UFC history. But he kind of got lucky in terms of like Adesanya being at the top and Adesanya like clearing his way, because Adesanya beat everybody, a couple of them multiple times. So it's like this guy really didn't have to test himself against like some of the higher levels. So he got to Adesanya pretty quick. And that was the storylines. Like, can this guy knock Adesanya out? Can Adesanya beat him? Whatever. And Adesanya showed he can beat him. But in the 5th round, this guy came out with a lot of energy, came out with a lot of strong hits. This guy has like a left hook that like puts people to sleep. He knocked Adesanya out with it. Sean Strickland, we watched on one of the fight nights, he knocked him out. And he just put it on. I honestly feel like he put a lot of pressure on him. And Adesanya was saying that the guy kept calf kicking him and hit him in like the perennial nerve or some shit like that.
Oh yeah.
So
he
his
did
leg,
mention that in the press conference. Yeah.
because it and like there was like a moment in the fight where like he got kicked and like he like fell back and like rolled over because it hurt. So I think like with him like coming out, because he kind of like bombarded him early in that 5th round, which like there's like tape of like his coach is like, you losing, like you need to go knock this guy out because you're gonna lose. Like it's like in 5, he says it, in 5 minutes you're gonna be the champion. And this guy goes out, puts it on Adesanya, hits him with that. He hits him with like a right, I believe, and then like the left hook hit him. Like once he hit him with the left hook, even Bird was like, yeah, he's done. Like, and that left hook is crazy. Like it really was the neutralizer. Like to me, what we learned in that fight is Adesanya is better, but that guy's left hook just keeps catching him, And there was talks about like the stoppage maybe being early because Adesanya didn't even go to the floor. They stopped the standing. And that's like usually doesn't happen, especially in like a championship fight. They kind of tend to let them go out on the shield, but like Adesanya was kind of responsive. And somebody, I forgot who said it, but they're like, it was like 15 unanswered strikes of like him. Like he was like, even like when they stopped the fight, he was like kind of still like trying to dodge and they stopped it. And like, so Pereira wasn't swinging, but he was still like kind of moving. So he was like still coherent enough to kind of like move, but he wasn't swinging back. And I think a lot of people's thing was like if he could have like clinched him and like held him tight for a little bit and like regained, could have been, he still could. He probably would have lost the round, but would have won the fight. And but even Adesanya said like he was like, I thought it was an early stoppage, but like I trust my coach and my agent, and they both were like, nah, like you should have got. It's better that they stopped it. So.
Well, I thought that was big of him to say that in the press conference. He's like, look, man, I felt lucid. I felt good. But like you said, I got to trust my team. and if they, whatever, like he wasn't like discrediting what happened, but he was just kind of like, hey, listen, man, it happened. And I think they asked him, is there a rematch in the works? He's like, fuck yeah. Like, yeah, there's gotta be.
Oh, I mean, he needs to have it. Like,
Yeah.
he's defended the belt 7 times. Like, he's honestly, that's one thing that sucks about like being that great. And like he even said it, like, bro, when you really think about it, he didn't have to take this fight at all. He didn't have to take this fight. He didn't have to acknowledge the guy at all. He took the challenge, knowing what could happen. And I mean, it replayed itself, but like knowing what could happen, knowing what has happened in the fights before, like, and he even said, he's like, it's crazy. It's like, it's the same thing. I'm beating the guy and then he just beats me. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm not outclassing because they're both top level strikers, but he's like, I'm putting in work and then he comes and beats me. And it's like, it just sucks because everybody has high expectations for like Adesanya. Same thing with Usman when he got knocked out by Leon Edwards. He's defending the belt as much as like he's about to break. It literally happened both times. Usman was going to break GSP's record or tie GSP's record, and Adesanya was going to tie Anderson Silva's record for this division in like championship. How do you say?
Title
defense. Yeah. So it sucks because like that pressure's on, but like, I think Daniel Cormier was like, "Yo, but think about it. Like when you lose the belt, you lose all that pressure. That pressure that was building up, and especially when you do it 7 times, every time it's just a little bit more." And shout out to Andrew Schultz, one of my favorite comedians and podcasters. But they had like a live fight night, which I'm starting to think they didn't do like the fight on the fight night, but they did it like the night before. And they had, since everybody was in New York, they had Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, they had Alexander Volkanovski all like come in while they were doing a live stream. Like they would just pop in and they would like talk to them and stuff. And Usman said in that, he was like, every time you win and you defend your championship or your belt, the pressure gets like a little bit more because everything around you elevates every time. Whether it's, like my businesses are elevating because, the opportunities I'm getting, the media obligations are elevating because I've done it so much, and every time it's more pressure. So it's like, it sucks to see Adesanya lose. And like, dude, you see my reaction. I was quiet. I was like, like, and like even Bird was like, AD's dick is shriveled up right now. Like he was like, it was like sad to see him lose, but like how he took it and like how he is, it's like he's gonna bounce back. He's gonna fight this guy again. Hopefully. I mean, he was winning. Like, you got to figure something out in terms of like. And another thing was impressive, which was like a lot of questions answered for Stylebender, was like his wrestling. That was like the big thing. Like, who's gonna be the first one to shoot for a takedown? Which it was Alex Pereira, but also like who's gonna win those exchanges? Which was Adesanya. Like Adesanya, even though Pereira is like a way bigger man, like. Adesanya is 6'4", so it's crazy. Like this guy's like 6'5", 185. You know what I mean? Like solid. He's probably like fighting at like 200 probably.
Yeah.
So he's a solid dude. But Adesanya was still kind of like manhandling him a little bit on the ground. And like the guy's like clearly not a ground specialist. But the fact that Adesanya could do that, it shows like I think his blueprint for like the next fight. So I just want to see Adesanya like regain, get that belt back, and it kind of helps with his story because like he already cleaned out the division. Like even if he beat this guy, like there would be nobody next. He would have to wait for like somebody to like present themselves because there's not all the top guys in the top 10 at least he's beaten. So it's like, what do you do? So I don't know. It just storylines, man. That's what we're here for.
It's a perfect scenario for Dana White and his crew,
of course,
to have the rematch and to have build it back up. But look, if he's cleaned out the division, this is not a bad thing for the division. Bad for him, right? Obviously, losing the title, but
see, that's another thing that people are saying is like Adesanya exposed his wrestling very bad, right? The top, all right. So you got number 2 because now Adesanya is number 1 in the rankings. Number 2 is what's his name? Why am I blanking? Robert Whittaker, who. Adesanya knocked out once and then beat him in a second time in decision, but great wrestler, just as good boxing, but like wrestling to the point where he could take Alex down and keep him down and just beat him. that way. He don't really have to stand with him. One thing that Adesanya did do in the division was like show a lot of like wrestling defense, and he didn't really need it for this. He was like more the aggressor, but he has way better wrestling defense than Alex Pereira because there's been better wrestlers like again Robert Whittaker, Derek Brunson, who I think is like 4th in the rankings, just a solely hard hitting wrestler. You know what I mean? Marvin Vittoria, another strong wrestler who has power in his hands, and has a good chin, will take some hits just to wrestle. So it's like the next guys, if he beats Adesanya again, the next couple guys he's got to face are all wrestlers. So it's like he might not be able to keep the belt, and that's what people are saying. Is like, so for him, it's like his best option too is to fight Adesanya. I think, even though he's 3-0 against him, and like generally you wouldn't do that, but it's like if you want to keep your belt for at least a little bit longer, that's your best chance because everybody else is going to give you problems on the floor. And if Adesanya is doing that to you, there's going to be other wrestlers that they're not as equipped on the feet as Adesanya is, but they'll take him down right away and ground and pound. You know what I mean? Submit him. Like, interesting, man. Storylines.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then so I like the fact that this guy could lose the belt, and so fighting Adesanya again is probably the best option for him to keep it a little bit longer. It is in these fight nights when you, and again I'm just trying to promo for your next one. When you start you started early, right? It's a long night. It's a long night of fights, right? There's the undercard and then the main card. Like, do you get into the undercard a lot, or do you just kind of enjoy that, or like are you following each of these pretty well?
Well, I've noticed like doing them and stuff, and like it depends, like I woke up and like there was like it depends on the fighters, because like I'll hear about somebody or I'll see like a crazy highlight and then I'm on the watch for them, so whenever they fight I'm like, oh, let me tune in. So like to start the match, when I went to sleep the night before, I think I was like gaming until like 5, 6, 7 in the morning, like some crazy time. So I woke up like right when the card started, but I wanted to see the first fight. So like I watched the first fight and then I went like got food, whatever, and then came back for like the actual card, like when it actually starts. Like probably like the early on card, like not the early prelims, but like the prelims. So then I watched from the prelims till the last fight. But it depends. Like if I wake up in time or something, I'll watch them all. Like yesterday was like a longer fight companion. We had like I think it was like a 6-hour stream.
Yeah.
Of just fighting. So I watched 6 hours of straight just UFC yesterday. So
like you guys were on for a while for sure.
Yeah. But to answer your question, like if I see something in somebody, or like I see a knockout or like a promo or something, if I get wind and their story catches me, I'll watch them. Like if I'll like pay attention, or I won't even necessarily know they got signed to that card, but then when I'm like looking up the card and like seeing who's on, oh shit, like this guy's fighting at this time, I'm definitely gonna check that in. You know what I mean? I definitely want to see that. So yeah.
Oh, awesome. All right, so guys, if you are interested in UFC fight nights, please make sure you're subscribed or following Blackout AD's Twitch channel, and check him on social media. He always
MMA podcast coming soon.
Oh, okay. MMA podcast.
Maybe.
No, make it happen, man. Make it happen.
I know.
Honestly, guys, I'm not even bullshitting. I would tell you that, again, to get some great perspective on these UFC matches, breakdowns of the fighters, and again, the more intimate storylines of the fights themselves, listen up to Blackout AD. He's always, on the Fight Companion, and sometimes beforehand, he'll be talking about it. If he does an MMA podcast, that'd be even better. No pressure, sir. All right, but make sure you guys are following Blackout AD on all your social media channels, and especially on Twitch. That's where he's
shout out
gaming.
to Discord. We got 100 people in there now.
Oh, damn.
Which is nuts, because all those people are there for the fight. And I was thinking that's why I like filled up so fast this time, because there's been like so many people. Like, I mean, the last couple fights that I didn't do, they were like, yo, when's the next fight companion? So we got to figure that Discord thing out. But shout out to everybody in there. I want to keep growing it. And that's another motivation for the MMA podcast, because I'm like, well, obviously all these people like MMA. So maybe they might, you know what I mean? They're coming through. It'll be a good way to promote because I think with promotion, I honestly think the MMA podcast would be cool, but I think the MMA, like the fight nights, could be the biggest thing that I do. And I think it just needs like something to like layer people in.
No worries, man. So, guys, make sure you're following Blackout AD on all the social media channels. Make sure you're following him on Twitch and join his Discord. That's all in your description, right? It's in your description in the on your Twitch channel.
What's everyone? Blackout AD, I'm here.
He's here. All right, guys. So for the Big Llama show, this week, obviously, we're gonna have another first time movie watch. If you guys have kept up with the channel, we did a retro rewatch where I just rebranded or re-put out my reactions to Children of the Corn. Really enjoyed doing that. I get a chance to re-edit it. The videos that are blocked on YouTube, I'm just trying to go back and seeing how I can re-edit them and put them out for everybody. We also did Set It Off, so we were really excited about that. So again, guys, check out the channel. Looking for first time movie watches. Look for the Be Kind Rewind podcast. That one is usually each week we have that out there. Those are a little bit more based on the availability of Blackout members. Yeah, what's up, AD?
I thought of good ones. Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
Both of them. Those would be good episodes.
Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat Annihilation?
Yes.
All right, man.
I want the Annihilation one by myself, though.
Okay. Not a problem. So, guys, if you guys are interested, again, we've got about 5 episodes into the Be Kind Rewind podcast. Our latest one was Grease. We released that one this week. Guys, again, if you have not listened to that one, please make sure you guys check that out. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Big Llama Show. That's how you support the channel. If you're listening to the podcast and you want to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or wherever you hear your podcasts, do that as well. Again, Be Kind Rewind is a separate podcast that is produced by the Big Llama Show. So, guys, thank you guys again for another great Sunday night live stream. Had a lot of fun reviewing Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. If you're joining us late, you can always rewind and watch this or let your friends know about the Big Llama Show. He's Blackout AD. We got producer Big Poppy Angie's in the building. Guys, thank you so much for another live stream. We'll see you next week, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. Same time, same place, man. Peace out, everybody.
Later.